How's it going, everybody? I'm Steve, and welcome back. So tonight I went through my Criterion collection, and I actually picked out like 10 titles that I felt were appropriate for the spooky season. A lot of these are kind of considered to be horror movies. If you look on IMDb, they're kind of listed as horror and like a mix of different genres, you know. But some of these actually, I'm sure a lot of people would consider some of these to be pure horror movies. But actually, before putting this video together, I saw on YouTube that there's a YouTuber called Boutique Labels with Elliot Cohen, and he's in England, and I haven't watched his video yet, so I'll be curious after I make my video to watch his to see how many titles he has on his list that I included on mine. But there's one title I think probably will make his list, and it's actually one I just saw for the first time back in August, and it's called Peeping Tom. This is from Michael Powell. This is from 1960, and it's a very influential kind of a horror movie. And I would think the fact that Elliot Cohen is in England, that this one would probably make his list. It would make sense. But the fact that I saw it for the first time back in August, I thought I'm not going to include it. It's a little bit too new for me, but I thought it was an interesting movie. All right, so at number 10 for 1981, we have Spy Number 712, and the movie is Scanners. This is from director David Cronenberg. And, this actually, starring Michael Ironside. He's really great in this movie. Stephen Lack as Jennifer O'Neill. This movie's, if you know that opening scene of this movie, it's really scary. It's like, oh my God, what kind of movie is this going to be? You know, if these people have this kind of ability, to do that. I don't want to spoil it, but very interesting, very memorable. Okay, so number 9 from 2001, I have Spy Number 1195. That's from director Alejandro Amenabar, and the movie is The Others. This is starring Nicole Kidman. It's a very interesting kind of a story. I don't really want to give it away. You kind of compare it to some other movies, but I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it. But I actually saw this movie in the theater originally. It's a movie I had not seen in quite a while until like Criterion had released it, like maybe a year or two ago, and I loved it. Just seeing it again, it'd been so long, but I remembered quite a bit of it. I knew how it ends and everything, but it's just I think it's an interesting kind of scary movie. Okay, so at number 8, this one's actually from 1960. It's Spy Number 260, and the movie is Eyes Without a Face. This is actually a French film. I don't have a ton of like foreign films in my collection. I have actually a couple foreign films in this top 10, but this one's really interesting though. It's from the director Georges Franju, and it's one that I can't even pronounce. The actors are in the movie. I can't even pronounce them. So I'm not even going to bother. But interesting title. Billy Idol made a song called Eyes Without a Face. It's just kind of inspired by this movie. But if you know the full story of this movie, it's really creepy. Just kind of know what this father does for his daughter. It'll creep you out. If you know the full story, I don't think even in the movie they totally give the full story that this is based on it. But once you know the full story, you'll know how kind of heartbreaking it is and how scary this father is in the movie. Okay, so at number 7 for 1962, I have Spy Number 63, and the movie is Carnival of Souls. This movie is very influential. It has directed by Herc Harvey. It has Candice Hilligoss, and like I said, a lot of these movies kind of have a theme to them, and it's very, very kind of spooky kind of imagery. It's one that I think you have to actually watch a couple of times to actually really enjoy it, and watch it with the commentary too. It kind of gives you some background. And this is a extremely low budget movie, and I think it is one that once you think about it a little bit more, it'll creep you out and kind of stick with you for a little while there. Okay, so number 6 from 1973, I have Spy Number 745, and the movie is Don't Look Now. This is one I actually had not watched until last year. I had never seen it before. That was the 50th anniversary. Very interesting to wait that long to see a movie, but it's actually starring the late Donald Sutherland. Has Julie Christie's in it. She's really great. Actually directed by Nicholas Roeg. But this is one that you have to stick with all the way to the end, because like around the third act, it might kind of lose you a little bit. You kind of wonder where this is actually gonna go. And then when you see like the very like closing scene of the movie, like it all makes sense. Like all the signs were there. The audience didn't quite catch it. The main character, Donald Sutherland's character didn't totally catch it. And then once you see the very end, you're like, oh my God, really? and it's one you really have to think about. And even after you watch the movie, you're like, okay, that makes sense. So much sense, and it's so creepy. So that's the one thing. I think the only thing about this movie is like the blood in the movie is kind of odd looking, but I thought it was really great though. Okay, so number 5 from 1983, I have Spy Number 248, and the movie is Videodrome. And also another one from David Cronenberg. And there's another Cronenberg movie called The Brood that I've never seen. I may actually pick that one up here within the next couple of months or so. Let me know in the comments if you think that movie is really scary, if it should be in the top 10. Maybe it should be. Like I said, I've never seen it, but actually, this is starring James Woods. Has Deborah Harry, if you ever seen the band Blondie, she's in this movie. But interesting, this is actually one that kind of had to grow on me a little bit. Once you see like throughout the movie, once you see it a couple times, 2 or 3 times, I think you might be actually hooked on the movie. Some of the effects in the movie, I don't know if Rick Baker may have been involved with these. They're all practical effects. It's very strange to see these effects now. You kind of expect CGI to take over all this stuff now, but back then it was all practical, and I enjoy this quite a bit. And like I said, it's one that I've seen probably 3 or 4 times now, and it just keeps growing on me. And obviously, it made number 5 on my list. So, okay, so number 4, this one's actually 70 years old, from 1954. Spy Number 594, and the movie is Godzilla. This one is started a huge franchise. I think the first one is one of the scariest ones I've seen so far out of the franchise. Actually, Godzilla -1 really reminds me of this movie. It was kind of back to the roots, kind of Godzilla, But it's actually directed by Shiro Honda, and actually it's actually starring Takashi Shimura. If you ever seen a lot of the Kurosawa movies, he's one of the stars in all of those movies, and he's the star of this movie, or one of the co-stars of the movie. But this one, I actually had never seen this movie until like maybe a couple years ago. And it's one that's really stuck with me. It's in black and white, but just consider this one's 70 years old now. It's just amazing to watch it now. Okay, so number 3 for 1968, I have Spy Number 630, and the movie is Rosemary's Baby. This one actually it's out of print with Criterion now. You can get it through the Paramount Presents now, but this one's obviously it's from director Roman Polanski. Obviously, people know who he is. Not extremely popular in the U.S. anymore, but he's not allowed in the U.S. anymore for various reasons. But it's actually starring Mia Farrow, has John Cassavetes in it. Cassavetes was a movie director as well. He has quite a few titles in the Criterion collection. And actually has Ruth Gordon. If you ever seen Harold and Maude, she's in that movie as well. That movie's also out of print with Criterion because Paramount took some of the titles back. Somehow Don't Look Now is part of Paramount, but somehow they released that one back with Criterion, but like on 4K and Blu-ray. Okay, so number 2, I have another one from 1968. It's Spy Number 909. The movie is Night of the Living Dead. Obviously, this is from director George Romero. Has Dwayne Jones. Very, very interesting to have him as a star of the movie. Very, very much ahead of its time. It has Judith O'Dea. This movie is extremely influential. It started basically the zombie genre. Basically started with this one. This one, I think I maybe like Dawn of the Dead a little bit more than this one, but this one was actually a public domain since it got released. If you know the whole story behind this movie, how they screwed up the copyright on the movie, unbelievable. But I'm glad that Criterion picked this one up. And they actually released it on 4K not too long ago too. Okay, so number 1, I consider this one to be a horror movie. It's from 1991, Spy Number 13, so one of the really early ones. The movie is The Silence of the Lambs. A lot of people don't consider this to be a horror movie. If you check IMDb, it's gone back and forth between horror and thriller. But that's why I said this is basically like spooky movies overall. But obviously, it's from director Jonathan Demme. Anthony Hopkins is really great in this movie. Jodie Foster, Ted Levine. It's just an iconic movie. And Hannibal Lecter, if you've ever seen Manhunter, that character wasn't really handled extremely well by Michael Mann in that movie. And so Anthony Hopkins took it over. Brian Cox played the character in that movie in Manhunter. And then Anthony Hopkins took him over in this movie and made him really iconic. I think he played the role like 3 times. So, very scary. The Hannibal Lecter character is very scary. Actually, Buffalo Bill character is really scary too. So that's why I consider this to be a horror movie. But some people, it's listed as horror crime. So it could fit those genres. And some people would say it's a thriller movie. So it's a movie that, depending on who you ask, on what day, they'll say it's a horror movie, or some people will say it's a thriller. I think it's a scary movie though. Okay, everybody, I really appreciate watching this video. Please leave in the comments. Let me know your favorite 10 Criterions that you think are scary. You can include really any kind of scary movies you want, really. Who knows? And someday Criterion may pick up any given movie. You know, if they get the licensing for it, they'll release it. So there's really no wrong answers, really. Please, if you're not already, subscribe to my channel, please do that. Please put a thumbs up on this video. It definitely helps with the YouTube algorithm. And everybody have a great one.